Hey everybody, welcome to the webinar. We're doing this a little bit different, so hopefully we've got a new computer going. So hopefully some of the as I migrate through the slides, you won't see what I've heard, which is some lag at times, or possibly that the screen even blacks out for a hot minute and then comes back. We just think that we have some bandwidth issues here, so we're trying a new computer. Let's see how it goes. We're going to give everybody a minute or two to kind of get situated. So sometimes you will see me turn a little bit this way. It's only because this is where I'm sharing from. So we got folks coming in right now. We'll give everybody a minute. It looks like we are in the 30s and climbing fast. So hopefully everybody will be in here shortly. For those of you that are here, we'll recap all this as folks come in a minute. But just want to say welcome. Thank you for being a part of it. We always love doing these for you. So we've got a special guest with us today, and Bobby, Bobby. I'll let you introduce yourself, and we'll probably do it again here shortly. So just a quick intro to who you are, since you're the new face on our panel.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Bobby Deverall. I come with just over 17 years experience in the catering industry. So I've worked at 5 different brands in both the catering sales management side and the brand leader catering director side. So excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're very excited. Today we're going to be talking about some topics that I think are going to fit right into Bobby's space very well. And then the way we're going to break this down a little bit differently than we've done before has to do with we're going to come at this from 3 angles. We're going to look at the content from the angle of a brand leader. So if you're participating in this webinar, if you're hearing it as a recording later and you are a leader, we're going to come at some of this information from a leader perspective, because you're going to have a different perspective than a restaurant owner or a general manager might have. So we're going to look at it from that perspective as well. And then we're also going to look at it from a catering sales manager perspective. So when we talk about what should we be doing in May and June, when we start talking about May, depending on where your role is going to determine what kind of activities you do or what kind of tactics that you're going to approach. So at the restaurant level, you're about execution and making sure everything runs the way it's supposed to. For a customer sales manager perspective, it's about communication. It's about your ability to tighten up before and after and follow up and those things. Whereas a brand leader, your job is to kind of motivate, encourage, coerce at times is the word I like to use, people to be able to do things a certain way. So we're excited about today's webinar in general. We've got some really cool gifts and tools, I guess, in here for you as well. If you haven't been on the catering space in a while, so the cateringspace.com is the website. You can visit it now and kind of follow along if you want under the Catering Wave, under webinar 3. You'll be able to find us. If not, we'll send it to you out later. But we've done some reformatting. We've added a search site. We've added some other really cool areas for you to kind of move around. But you can see we've got some drop downs for you to kind of navigate a little bit better. We also have added, before we kind of get too deep into this, some really, I think it might be fun, some appreciation season secrets is what I called it. So if you're into appreciation season, which is coming up starting in mid-April through mid-May, there's a lot of opportunities coming up. We know all about the big ones, and we'll go through them here for a little bit. You know, Teacher Appreciation Week. In each one of these secrets, you're going to see we're going to have a contact to call. We're going to have a list building shortcut. We're going to have a secret, an association shortcut, and a VBR opening line. If you've not been on one of the NCC webinars before, a VBR stands for a valid business reason, meaning that you should never call a company and say, "Hey, my name is Byron, do you cater?" That's just a flat response. They're going to say yes or no. They'll say, "Send me something," and you haven't really had much of a conversation. A VBR is supposed to get you deeper into the process a little bit. So, hey, I'm reaching out because Teacher Week is coming up the first week of May. We're about 6 or 7 weeks out now. Have you guys started planning your meals yet? So don't ask about catering. Assume they do and go right into it. So you wouldn't call a car dealer asking if they cater. You already kind of assume they do. So you'll see those all the way through. We have what we call VBRs that are going to take you through. So you'll see one for Nurses Week as well that we've got for you. And then we've got some that folks tend to ignore a little bit that I'm wholeheartedly believe in. One is Construction Safety Week, which I believe there's a Construction Appreciation Week later in the year, but this is Construction Safety Week. So think about OSHA opportunities. So if you've gone a certain number of days without an injury or something where there might be an award or a reward put aside. Safety awards have bought a lot of sandwiches from me over the years. So understanding when those monies become available, are they bringing in someone to do special trainings that week? Anything having to do with construction, but the safety side of the equation is your VBR on that. Then we have Lawyer Wellbeing Week here as well. This is one I'm telling you, if you want to get in with law firms, it has worked really well for us here at NCC. When we call and represent restaurants as their fractional catering sales support, we lean into lawyers quite a bit just because we've got some folks on our team that are they just love the frequency of law firms. It's a little harder to get in. This has worked really well for us as an opportunity. So what Lawyer Wellbeing Week is, and then we'll kind of move on in a second, has to do with health in different elements in the legal industry. So think mental health, think physical health, emotional health. This started out in LA and New York, but it's kind of starting to spread. And sometimes law firms, especially large ones, will bring in different speakers each day or have a different focus and spend that week focusing on well-being of the legal industry. Even if they don't celebrate it or recognize it or do anything with it at the law firm you're calling, it's a great VBR. And the reason is because you're educating them on an event in their industry. And so people tend to open up really nicely to that one. So I would encourage you, if you want to get into law firms, that's a really great one. One that is often overlooked that aligns with Admin Professionals Week is Veterinarian Receptionist Week. It is a great opportunity. Veterinarians are not big orders. They're 10 to 20 people usually, but they're very loyal. And once you get on their radar, they will order from you with regularity. And another one that I like to go after, because there's some national chains out there, but there's also some locals. Plus, it's another reason to get into the hospitals, is Medical Lab Professionals Week, which is the last full week of April. So another one, again, last week of April through the middle of May, you're in the right spot to be able to start doing some of these secrets, I guess, for appreciation season. So hello, Danielle. How are you?
Oh, good to see you. I am
Yep.
well.
Yep. Danielle wasn't able to be with us last year. She was busy working and making money, but she's back with us this month. I missed you.
Yes.
It's always nice
Thank
to
you.
have somebody to play off of. Instead, they had to listen to me drone on for an
Well,
hour.
thank you for having me back.
So we're glad that you're back. Last time it was just me and Abby flying solo, and Abby doesn't want me to put her on the spot asking any questions. Miss Abby, tell everybody a little bit about who you are and why you're here and what you're going to be looking for.
Hi, I'm Abby. I direct communications here at NCC, and for this call, I will be monitoring the Q&A. So at any point throughout the webinar, if you have any questions, any comments you want to make, anything like that, you can drop those into the Q&A. If the question is something that's relating to what we're discussing, we'll ask it at that time. And then if it's something that we can circle back to at the end, we'll make sure to get an answer for you then. But anything you have, you can leave it in there.
Feel free to interrupt us, basically, is what it comes down to.
Exactly.
It's okay, because otherwise we get to the end and then it's like, wait, what was that question? And whatever. Yeah. So feel free to interrupt us with questions. One thing, I tried to put a poll, and I don't know if I was successful. If you guys see a poll, great, fill it out. If not, we're going to just do it as a general Q&A, and you can send it in the question and answer piece. I'd like to know how you guys are doing year over year in catering. How has the year started for you? Because I keep hearing mixed bags from different folks. Are you ahead of last year? Are you flat to last year? Are you down to last year? Are you absolutely crushing it? If you can just kind of let us know, I'd love to get a sense of how everyone's doing out there on the catering side. I keep hearing the economy is not being kind, but then again, I know that businesses are always trying to find a perk that can kind of get their teams motivated. So the purpose of today's call has to do with May and June strategies. As we've talked about the catering wave, if you've been on the last calls, we talk about that not every month of catering has the same opportunities, so we should not be doing the same activities. So with the catering wave, you're into, when we start talking about, the first one was January and February. So planning, list building, research, those types of things. And then we covered March and April, which is we've got to have our list done. Right now, your list should be done. You should be doing initial outreach, digging into those opportunities for Teacher Week and Nurses Week, and construction week, and all those things we just showed you. Those should be on your radar. There should be heavy selling, heavy communication, heavy outreach time right now because you're in what we call the best listening window of the year. The appreciation season between middle of April and the middle of May is probably the second or third largest catering opportunity of the year. It varies from brand to brand a little bit. I'm sure back to school is helping in some, but I know like we do some interaction with some Mo Southwest Grills, and they absolutely crush May. It is by far, I think, their biggest catering month for many brands, and that's because you've got graduation, you got Cinco de Mayo, you got plus all the help me out here. Appreciation season opportunity. Thank you. I told them coming in, guys, my mouth is not working right today, so you're going to see me do that a few times. So we talked about March and April, what that should be. So now we're in May and June. And so May and June is a little bit different because you say May, oh, wow, that's our busiest month. So we have a lot of selling. No, the selling should be done by the time you get to May. May should be about confirming and maybe some closing that's taking place on the last minute. I'm not saying you're not going to be doing any selling. You just might be doing hardcore sales, meaning that the hard work, the getting the quotes out, doing all those things that should be happening in March and April. So in May, you're spending more time closing the deals, getting them over the finish line, a lot of communication, all those things that you've promised and committed to are now happening. And so your job is to make sure operations knows what they need to know and that they are on top of it. And if there's any ordering that needs to be, that you're sharing that with whoever the person's in charge of doing that. And so May is about execution in a lot of ways, but we're going to talk about it from three different angles. June, on the other hand, we kind of get that dip where we're coming back down a little bit. So we get back into list building and getting prepared for H2 or the second half of the year. So you're going to see here where it talks about May servicing the crest, right? So at the top of your window here, 11% of your annual revenue for catering is coming in May. This is peak appreciation season. Every order matters. We want to deliver and communicate everything the way we need it to be. Close, you have graduation, year-end events. So there's a lot of stuff happening in May. So it's, again, communication, executing all those things that you've been selling. June, research and planning through the trough, the dip, the bottom. So the idea of getting ready for back to school, getting ready for Q3 opportunities, setting a calendar, building your marketing plan, whatever it might be, are pivoting from your first half of the year plan happens a lot in this window as well. So Danielle, I know you were big into CMO for brands like, I'm going to forget them all, Smoky Bones. I'm going to forget some of them. When did you guys do a mid-year pivot in June? Was that part of your refocus, or did you just go with the plan you had?
No, 100%. We do a repivot in June. It's kind of that reset that we did in January. January and June are kind of your resetting dates. And again, it's a little bit low. Back to school is important. I will comment on one other thing. June, World Cup opportunity. World Cup is June 1st through July 19th. World Cup is the most watched sporting event in the world. And this year, US, Mexico, and Canada are hosting. A lot of restaurants are ramping up for this. There's going to be a lot of watch parties, a lot of restaurants and bars that are doing specials and promotions. This might be an opportunity to leverage some sales in this lower sales month. I've got a couple of my clients that are really going all in on World Cup because there's watch parties are huge. So now you've got a B2B2C component here. So right. When you're talking to your companies, sometimes they're going to be like March Madness, right? Companies sometimes will do watch parties, or they'll bring in meals on the game where on the day the local college might be playing. So you're going to see some of that happening around the country. So if your team is in March Madness, talk to them from a B2B perspective, but then the B2B2C, meaning that, hey, we'd love to help you for office opportunities, but if you're doing a watch party or you're doing, you have a, weekend basketball where you're having friends and family over, we got something for you as well. And so, yeah. Bobby, this is where go ahead, Danielle. I'm sorry. Oh, I was just going to add one other thing. Same goes, Byron, for the back to school. I mean, back to school, we know as a B2B, bringing in, early before school starts, teacher appreciation trays. They're doing their planning for, in July. My daughter's out of school. They're planning already starting in June and July but it also is a B2C play. Busy parents, don't worry about cooking this first month of school. You're filling out forms. Your kids are coming home. It's insane. You're running to Home Office Depot 5 times. Let us cater your smaller orders, but cater your during the week meal. So that B2B, B2C goes just as good with the back to school.
So, Bobby, one of the things I was going to ask, because you've been at this from as a catering sales manager's perspective, but also as a brand leader. Did you guys often do a pivot mid-year as well, or was it just kind of did y'all stay the course and just assume it was going to right itself?
No, we always did a pivot middle of the year, mid to late June as well. And to that point, I think that the middle of the year is an opportunity to get really creative about the second half of the year. One of my favorite promotions that we ever ran at a brand that I worked with recently was a Christmas in July promotion for catering. So we essentially came up with this, a percentage discount, we'll call it 10% discount for anyone who wants to book their holiday party but confirm it in July. And so what that did was free up our CSM time as we led into the holiday season to focus on new direct business versus helping with that repeat business, because we got that out of the way during the slower months. So it was kind of cool.
So one of the things that I wanted to ask you, Bob, because you're in Orlando, right? Is that
Correct.
So you're in a city that hosts large events, large athletic events, especially. So I want to tap into what Danielle was saying a little bit about World Cup, and I want your take on it. So I'm looking at there's 11 U.S. cities. We've got Atlanta, Boston, Dallas, Houston, KC, Los Angeles, Miami, New York, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Seattle. So what you would assume, the traditional big players in that. Have you guys, either of you, tapped into Super Bowl or College Bowl season or anything like that, and been able to tap into catering revenues in case somebody listening to the call in any of those markets?
Really, in my experience, we had the most success soliciting the teams that were playing and partnering with the arenas or with the stadiums, right, to provide catering for their private event spaces. B2B is a lot more lucrative, in my opinion, than B2C. It's there's a lot more information out there. You can really be strategic and more targeted in that way. So we saw the success in terms of the athletic opportunities with the actual teams themselves and or the venues hosting
versus a tailgate package kind of.
Correct. Yeah, I mean we've seen some. I mean we've seen sales for a when we're promoting a tailgate package, but it's minimal. And we just always kind of hope for the best again for the best.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Danielle, any luck? Because I know like we used to go after like security. Like if in other words, if we knew there's a facility nearby, we might go into the security side of things, or we may go into the media and try to get our foot in the door with catering there. Have you had any direct success with any of that?
A little bit, not huge. Some of those are, I know one of my large clients tried to partner with, say, the Panthers Arena, some of these other bigger facilities. It's a long process to get into those, but some of the smaller ones are, I mean, you've got kind of the market cornered on, these athletic teams, once a month feeding, I know at Smoky Bones, we fed the Ohio State football team once a month. I mean, phenomenal. If you can tap in those smaller ones. Bigger arenas are a little tougher.
I was just thinking with World Cup specifically, feeding the teams coming in from all over the world may be a bit of a challenge, because I'm assuming some of that's going to be organized and regulated. But to be able to, like the parking staff or the security team. So if you're in any of those markets near one of these arenas or stadiums where these are happening, I think that's the right approach. So all right, well, let's get into the bulk of this. And I know I'm from Louisiana, and I'm just realizing everything looks like it's green, gold, and yellow. So there's not a Mardi Gras play here. I apologize. It just happened to be the color that it looks like it came up with. So as you come down here, you're going to see I want to let you know there's some hover text that you'll be able to use. So if you come in to sell, talks about what to do in that April month. You should be selling as the wave rises. You'll see where you're at the crest. It talks about servicing. And then when you come into success, which is that after your May events, sliding into June, so to speak, what should that look like? That's your guest follow-ups. That's where you're asking for referrals. That's where you're expanding the relationships within a brand. And then obviously back to research and planning when you get into June. And then you'll see July, it's going to start to peak a little bit. To Danielle's point about schools, a lot of school wins for back to school happen in July. Whether you're talking to transportation departments, bus departments, in that space, security teams now, since all schools tend to have security, they'll do pre-year meetings and such. So, but the relationships at the ISD level or at the even if it's a private school or the charter schools in some markets, I know like New Orleans is a big charter school market. So, like I said, we want to talk about this from 3 different angles. So you're going to see the brand leader segment, you're going to see the franchise owner segment, and then we're going to talk about the catering sales manager segment. So once we're done and we send you the video and the link to everything, you can browse wherever you like. But if you want to focus in just on yours, we've kind of segmented it out. This is a new model that I'm trying. I want to see how it resonates with you guys watching the webinar. So we're going to come at this from a brand leader segment. And so this is going to be that person that's leading the charge at the brand level. So keeping with our space theme, you've kind of got the admiral, so to speak. You set the coordinates, they navigate the wave. So your job as a brand leader, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but the idea behind it is your job to equip them with the tools and the playbook to succeed, to guide them by giving them clear priorities and benchmarks, to motivate them. I'll obviously celebrate wins along the way, but encourage them so they can see the value of doing this across your system. And then obviously support, remove blockers, and coach the general managers, coach the team, the restaurant owners out there. So what I want to do is get into the brand leader perspective for May execution. And so one of the things with our webinars, and when we send this to you, all of these that have little arrows, there's little drop. We're not going to go through all these because it would take forever. But what I want to show you as you're coming in and looking at this, if you click on closing deals, it's going to open up to a whole new page for you. It's going to talk about closing the pipeline, standardizing closing scripts, zero friction to book, how do you make ordering easy kind of thing, and then tracking your results at the brand level. So we're not going to go through all of these because I don't want to necessarily spend too much time just kind of navigating through where you don't get any content. But just want you to know that anytime you see closing deals, strong communication, post-order follow-up, customer success, there's more here waiting for you. So after an order, we always suggest, for example, 24 to 48 hours upon completion that you reach out. How was everything? How did it go? I'm a fan of the same afternoon if you can. You've delivered lunch. I'd call them at 3 or 4 in the afternoon to ask, how was everything? However, I understand that I was a bit of a unicorn on some of that. Some folks like to wait a day or two, but I would say no more than 48 hours, preferably within 24. Bobby, I saw you shaking your head. Tell me something. So.
No, I would agree wholeheartedly, Byron. In my sales life, and what I coach and try to teach my team is how important timeliness is, and a follow-up same day is ideal. I think if you wait longer than the afternoon that the order is fulfilled, then you're missing out on an opportunity for almost immediate repeat business and referrals. So I would agree.
Yeah. So, and a couple months back, we had Bart Hastert on our call. He's the owner with Schlotzsky's in Kansas City. Their number one catering store in the Schlotzsky's franchise. And he's neurotic, but in a positive way. Bart, I love you if you're listening. He texts as soon as the morning of, hey, just letting you know your order is coming today. As soon as the delivery driver is leaving, he's texting them again. He's on his way. As soon as the order's arrived and he's heard from his driver that it was delivered, he's texting going, let me know if you have any problems or any questions about it. And then at the end of the day, he's thanking them. It's a culture there, and he's the owner. He does it, but you can delegate that to someone. But as a brand leader, I would encourage you, whether you are a corporate brand leader or you are a franchise brand leader, or maybe you're a leader for a franchise group, or even an emerging smaller brand, provide guidance at the restaurant level. There's one thing I wanted to touch on here is why I opened this, is for contacts who didn't order, they should get a message from you too after, meaning that the week after teacher week for those schools that didn't order from you, Cindy, I hope your special week was amazing. Please keep us in mind for back to school. We'd love to be a partner for you. A simple email, it's a copy and paste approach. But what it does is if they had anybody had a bad experience with their teacher week opportunities, you are now on their radar as, oh my goodness, I'm going to give them a call because you've reached out, you've stayed in touch. And even though they didn't order with you, you sent a really pleasant message to say, I hope your special week was amazing. We would love to work with you in the future and keep it warm and keep the brand top of mind. It's a great tool to be able to do that. I was notorious for reaching out to people that told me no. I would always say, hey, I appreciate that you went with someone else. I hope if in the future you'll keep us in mind. And if anything went wrong, we're here for you to kind of reiterate that. And then the vacation season pivot. And so this is more about May and June. So the idea that you're getting into vacation season. So when kids get out of school, a lot of people take their vacation in the middle of the year. They also take at the holidays. So I've always enjoyed a reward your team when the team is lean approach, and meaning that, okay, I realize that a third or a quarter of your staff may be on vacation some weeks when everybody has to start wearing multiple hats while some of the folks are gone. Maybe bring in a meal that day. And it's just it's a VBR. It's another way to warm them up and keep them in mind. Danielle, with regards to marketing and tools, what, I know we talk about emails and being able to send. Have you guys ever participated in other methods other than communication? Would you say is it an email campaign? Is it a physical collateral that gets mailed? Is there anything that you're kind of partial to during that end of May, getting into the summertime that's worked for you in the past?
I mean, obviously, all of the above. It is a time when we can regroup. It's not crazy at holiday. I know when I was with Anthony's, we tried to come up with something very special with our loyalty program. It really gave us an opportunity to step back, look at who our most loyalist guests are, and do something a little special for them. I think I might have mentioned this in the past, but everybody loved the Anthony sauce. We didn't sell the sauce, so we came up with a program where we bottled some of the sauce and we gave it to our customers that came in the restaurant as a little take home, and it was very cool, and they loved it. And that was not something we would have been able to do during October, November, December, January, right? We were crazy. So we did take those slower months, June and July, to think about how do we do better with our loyal guests. And it was very well received.
That's awesome. I love that. And that's a great idea because again, when it's also a mid-year reminder to say when it's time for the holidays again, we're going to be ready for you. So right. Bobby, I know one of the things as a leader, how did you share wins across the team? In other words, if you had one location that scored something, obviously it triggered, oh my God, we need to try that with everyone. What was how did you share the information? And then what's the best way to kind of communicate that for our brand leaders out there to make sure that all the restaurants hear it?
Sure. So we actually, our teams communicate big wins in a couple ways. One is the first is the CSM team is required to send out weekly updates to a select distribution list that includes the general managers for all the catering locations, senior leadership, and the rest of the CSM team, anyone who touches catering, right? And what they are required to include in that weekly update is what they're focused on and any of their big wins. So they are, they're staying visible, they're calling out their own big wins. And then it's kind of fun thereafter to see operators chime in and reply all, yes, this was amazing. Thank you so much for the sale, that kind of thing. Another way that we called out big wins was on our biweekly ops call. So working at a few smaller brands, had its benefits in terms of that kind of communication and drawing attention to it. But the weekly updates that are sent out were really ideal.
I love the idea of ops and sales obviously working in tandem and having good communication, because anytime you hear sales and operations butting head, it's usually because of a communication gap more than anything else. It can sometimes be, oh, you said you weren't going to do that, but you did it anyway. It can be some of that pettier stuff. But for the most part, it's I didn't know or you didn't articulate it correctly, and having those meetings is huge. So I would say this, again, this is for the brand leaders. there's one piece on here I wanted to touch on. There's obviously some small things here like aggregate win stories and share them and brand level summer planning and that kind of thing. The top 20 accounts personal relationship piece. That's something that at Honey Baked we took very seriously. At the restaurant level, you would say who are your top 10 catering clients, who are your top 20. We'd want the general manager to know. If they didn't know, that there was a disconnect often. And so for us, we would always push that. I would say encourage your locations. Do you know your top 10 accounts? Do you have relationships with them? Can you call them just to say hi? I always thought that was the differentiator between whether you were somebody trying to sell somebody something or if you were a business partner, which is ultimately the goal of a catering sales manager, is to be a business partner. It meant if you could call one of your clients and just say, hi, how are things going? Haven't heard from you in a while. Just want to make sure all is well. Bobby, you have something there? Did you have a plan? I didn't know if you were unmuting. Okay. So the idea is that have a system in place and teach your restaurants how to reach out. And maybe you don't want to do top 20. Maybe it's just top 5. But I would encourage you that your general manager should be in touch at least once a quarter, probably more often, with your top 5 or top 10 biggest catering customers for that location, because that's a big part. But to Danielle's point, sometimes we don't have time in October, November, and December. But guess what? May and June really gives you. Once the things calm down in May, you got time to do some of that. So customer success is a big part of this. And I'm assuming, I was telling Abby earlier, it sounds like they are ripping the building apart from me next door. So if you guys can hear that, I apologize, but they said you couldn't.
No,
so
we still can't
right.
hear it.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. And Abby, let us know if there's any questions we need to intervene here. So one thing I wanted to give everyone as well. So this is for a brand leader. This is sitting with you, but anybody wants to come through. There is a teacher appreciation strategy kit that I've included in here for you. I love a kit. I love something that's got direction like this. So keep in mind, it's got an 8-week master timeline. So March 10th to March 21st. Guess where we are? We're in weeks 1 and 2 right now. So list building, your school database, identify your contacts, map out your trade area. The next 2 weeks should be about vendor setup and making sure that any menu adjustments you need to do. If you've never done or gone aggressively after what we would call I know with the Schlotsky's team, they call it community pricing. So for something like schools and churches and car dealers and nonprofit organizations, you have maybe a smaller price point, which is maybe your traditional box meal minus a side dish or minus a dessert or something to be able to get you at a lower price point. So if you've not done that before and you want to go a little more aggressively for school, kind of like you did for Black Friday, weeks 3 and 4 are when you want to really get that set up. Vendor setup is huge. I know, Bobby, I'm going to ask you or Danielle, how did you replicate that process so it's easy across the system?
Danielle, you want to start?
No, I'm thinking about an answer there.
So vendor setup, meaning getting set up as an approved vendor with the school systems and such.
Sure. So I'm trying to think of when we would start applying to become approved vendors, because at this point it feels like we're approved vendors everywhere, right? So when did we start?
In most places, that's why I was like, I don't know that I've ever gone through the process, just because stepping in that role, we had been in that market. So I'm not sure there was a process I went through.
So
to your point, real quick, sorry, Danielle, to your point, when we've opened new locations, that's one of the NSO boxes that we have to check off, right? Like looking for different venues in the area, getting on the approved vendor list for the county, the schools, any local government, and that kind of thing. So that's kind of when we focus on being sure we're an approved vendor across the board, is when we open a new location in a new market.
So I've got here as part of the kit, you'll see one of the sections as obviously there's list building. And I always say you should have a list of all your schools within 5 miles of your restaurant anyway, and they should be updated at least twice a year, meaning that updated with points of contact in case a principal leaves or a secretary or a counselor or athletic director or whatever it might be. but everyone should have a list of their schools. It should be front and center, should be somewhere in the restaurant. Your team should know who your schools in your market are. It's just one of those regulars because there's so much catering that can come from the schools itself. I have a little section here on vendor setup and menu design when you're talking about things that you'll need like a W-9 form. You'll need sometimes you'll need a certificate of insurance, depending on what it is. Food handlers permit in some markets. Sometimes you'll need a business license to show them. A lot of times it's simply filling out their form, putting the relevant information, and then submitting a W-9. So sometimes it can be as simple as that. But it's very important to know before you say, hey, we're going to crush schools this year. And then you're 2 weeks or 4 weeks, you're now, and you're kind of going, well, wait, they require us to be set up as a vendor. And then your whole plans are changed because that's a no deal. It's a deal breaker. You have to be able to have that in order to participate. Working with schools, just understanding that inside the school, there's different folks that have different responsibilities. Your number one ally is always your secretary. The principal might be the one approving it or a vice principal, but I would always start there. School counselors, especially at the high school level, are very influential. Sometimes that can generate a lot of social catering for you. Again, I know one franchisee with Moe's in the Pennsylvania market. I was hearing $20,000 a week in graduation catering in one of the locations. It was wild. And it's because they have really good relationships with the school counselors and they get their information out to all the graduating seniors. And so it's little things like that that can kind of really kind of build things up. Teacher Appreciation Week is a PTA, PTO event often for many markets. They're the ones controlling the price, the budget on this. A lot of times schools, principal level, have spent their money for the year, or at least they're hoarding it. So sometimes it's the PTA or PTO that is kind of coordinating everything. So I just wanted to share this with you. There is a school kit here that I think you're going to find very helpful. Hopefully there's some tools here that you'll be able to utilize. And again, anything that we share on this type of thing has more to do with being able to provide you with guidance and support tools that you can kind of help make it happen. So the last thing I wanted to share with this on is one flyer template, 5 industries I have. That's what it's called here. So if you are on the brand leader level, and this is my made up Americuban Deli restaurant brand that I use, but the idea behind it is that you can have a standard flyer that's very simple, 3 price points based on a budget, and you're celebrating Teacher Week. And then guess what? You take that same flyer and you do the same thing for Nurses Week. And then you take the exact same flyer and you do it for Hospital Week. And then you do it for Construction Safety Week. And then you come back and do it for Lawyer Wellbeing Week. And it's the same menu. It's just a matter of customization. So if you've got a really cool relationship with your marketing department, I would encourage you, if you're going to have for your catering sales team at the brand leader level, or if you're a catering sales manager, the ability to have your pricing on a menu that's customized to the event you're targeting can be tremendous because it feels like you're customized it for them. They may even pay actually more attention to it than they would a traditional menu. So I'm a big proponent. I know, Danielle, when we were talking about this yesterday, you laughed because this is kind of an old school tactic.
I know,
I don't know.
but it works.
Are you seeing people do it still?
Yes,
I mean, okay.
I do. The key word is if you have a department that can turn resets quickly. But yes, I do see them still using that. It's a great tool. It's a great tool.
And again, I think if it's one that it's with AI now, things can be a little faster to do. So hopefully it's something that can happen. So let's get into June strategy real quick. We're not going to get real deep into June because it's kind of about list building and such, but there's some examples here of strategic research for back to school and back to office opportunities, the CRM overhaul piece. And that's just kind of where you come in and start updating your list of clients. Sometimes if anybody's been on, I always joke, if you've been on Olo or Monkey or whatever your CRM, whether it's Triple Seed or whatever it is for years, you probably have a lot of stuff in there. And something that can be eliminated, something that can be, merged together, etc. Abby, you got your hand up, or you got a question?
Yep, I just did that. We just had something in the chat. It's not a question, but just a tip. Sure. Saying a lot of magnet art schools and churches that have preschools are steering towards house account setups. So that's the key for vendor setup when you're doing reach outs, even if you're tenured brand in the market.
And that's one of whoever said that, thank you very much. It was okay, cool. Thank you. One of the things that I didn't go through was house accounts. House accounts are big. And I know like Olo has that built into them now, I believe. I know that Monkey has it built in them as well. But the ability to have house accounts is tremendous. So thank you for that. I appreciate that, Abby. Thank you. So when you get into June research and planning, obviously strategic research, planning for the third quarter and the beginning of H2. Don't get into holiday planning yet. Focus on those months coming up. And then CRM overhaul is another idea to kind of help at your restaurant level. If you can do something at the brand level to help kind of clean that up a little bit, it's really important. So I'm now going to get to franchise owners a little bit. And this is where we talk about your ship. Almost said a bad word. Your crew, your results. So as a franchise owner or the general manager in this scenario, you're the captain of your own ship. And whether you have a dedicated catering sales manager or not, maybe you're just flying solo on this, during peak season, the main point of what you need to focus on once you get into May and especially into June is execution, closing, leading your team, and then optimizing every opportunity that you can squeeze into your limited bandwidth. And so the reason I wanted to touch on this a little bit, because a brand leader is going to have visions of grandeur, right? A brand leader is going to say, every restaurant can do this. We're going to send this out. We're going to give you the plan. And when you don't execute, we're going to say, what happened, right? That's normal. I did it too. I was a brand leader and I asked questions. Why didn't you do this? And then you forget, life happens, right? Stuff happens. Somebody calls in sick. Your delivery van has 2 flat tires and you don't know why. You forget to order some sort of an inventory and you have to run to try to Costco to get it. Life happens and we understand. So the goal is to shrink your window of what you want to focus on, eliminate the volume, and focus on what's most effective. And so this is where I lean into a little bit. When people want to talk about effectiveness, they'll lean into Teacher Week in this scenario, or they'll lean into Nurses Week because those are the 2 big ones. They're also the ones that all of your competition is going after with catering sales managers who have probably been in touch with them for a while. And so I would always challenge you to look for what's the next thing that I can impact, or maybe I've got a history with. So I've talked to people that I was an engineer before I opened my restaurant. So Engineering Week, they're always excited because it's their talking points. They understand the industry. They know how to interact. And so choose some. That's why I would say, that's why we offer things like medical labs week, or construction safety week, or lawyer well-being week, because those are going to be the ones that your big brands are going to probably ignore because they're prioritizing the 2 big ones, which is Teacher and Nurses Week. Whereas Teacher Week is going to be a great seasonal opportunity like back to school. And then schools might order year round, but it's not as plentiful. There's scenarios out there where I realize some schools are going to do well. But look at construction companies, I'll use law firms as those 2 examples. When you start looking at, I've talked to many brands, I said, let's break down your sales by industry. Construction is often in the top 2 or 3 industries for a lot of brands, and they don't even realize it. It's not something they even go after, which means the business is coming to them. It's also the type of business that's not on ezCater. I know Danielle and I were talking about Blue Collar the other day with about a brand, and you were going, they're not getting a lot of catering orders. Why? And we realized they're a blue collar brand. So Danielle, you want to speak to that a little bit and kind of how the targets and focus on that shift a little bit once that realization comes in and going, ezCater's not really it, right?
Yeah, and 2 points. One, let me address the first one, and then I have an overarching strategy just that I want to touch on. But yes, right away I realized why we are not doing well on ezCater. They cater to the Fortune 500s, and we were blue collar. So we really had to switch tactics, which tactic number 1 was to set up first party, right? We got to have first party, and just drive to these different markets, right? We're not even going after lawyer offices. That's not for us. It could be for some, but for us, it wasn't. So we really had to find those segments that were mission critical. And now we're sending them more away from Easy Cater and tracking to first party. So I think that was a good tactical move. One overarching strategy that I just wanted to mention, I have stepped into the brand leader role in an organization. And in that role, I am building tactics and playbooks and everything you can think about getting ready to deploy. I learned the hard way that it is really in your best interest to start two work streams. Work stream is my work stream as a brand leader, building all of these tools. The second work stream in parallel to that should be ensuring that your operations are in place, right? Because we bring this playbook to the table. If operation excellence is not there, you're going to ruin your opportunity to retain guests. I think the statistic is it costs you 5 to 25 times more money to get a new guest than it is to regain a guest. So it is critically important that while you're building this, you are having a work stream that operations is buttoned up, that they are compliant, that they have all their catering signage, that they're putting bag stuffers in so that when you're ready to deploy this, you're 100% on point. One of my clients, we are actually doing 3 different trainings. Training number 1 is retraining the restaurant on operations and compliant. Training number 2 goes into training them on catering specific. What is the menu? How do you approach guests about it? How do you help them get to an answer of what they need in order to feed a certain number of people? And then training number 3 is local store marketing. So it's really broken into 3 trainings. It's very difficult to throw everything at the operational team at once. So I think that's just an overarching call out.
Well, and Bobby, I'd like your take on this a little bit as well. When we start talking about operations and overwhelming the system, which is I think is where you were leaning into a little bit, Danielle. In other words, what's the right amount of training and guidance, and what's overkill? What's more than they can handle? So keeping things simple, I think, is always very important. So Bobby, you've worked for multiple brands, and I know there's a lot of tech, right? I mean, the tech stacks that we're accumulating at the restaurant level is insane compared to what we would have imagined 10 years ago. Where do you feel like, in other words, let's say you sign on with a certain technology and the training gets to the corporate level and it seldom makes it down effectively to the field. And so a lot of times you'll walk into a restaurant, and I've seen owners or general manager, and they're not using the certain tech, or they're using it incorrectly, or they're using it just 10% of it, because the training never made it down. How did you guys help make sure that at the restaurant level, or where the owner or the general manager felt confident in the tools? What was part of that process for you guys?
Totally. I think, to your point, Byron, and to Danielle's point, taking the guesswork out of what the expectation is for operations is huge. So standard operating procedures, black and white lists of what they should do, what they shouldn't do, the packaging that they are approved to use, and anything else they are not, again, just, and making sure that they have all of the tools to be successful in that sense. So just being sure that operationally we're consistent across the brand. Consistency has been huge and a huge focus of the most recent brands I've worked with. And it makes sense. It makes all the difference. And, I would say, I think that automation is really important. So in terms of catering tech or catering software, it's important to understand how beneficial it is to allow your teams to run a production report on multiple levels, to filter as needed. And in terms of training, there needs to be consistent training. There's not just like a one-stop shop. Here's the training day. Now you know it all. Good luck. Being involved and engaging with the operators is really important. Hosting, if you can, monthly catering ops calls where you can refresh everybody on issues that you've seen, take questions, answer them, have kind of an open forum dialogue is also really important.
So, and one of the things I wanted to point out here, and then we'll kind of move through this, but for all my franchise owners out there, I know how tough it is. And for our franchise business leaders, business consultants, whatever your official acronym is, FBC, FBL, whatever it is, um, it you got a lot on your shoulders, and I don't envy you guys at all because I know that you're now sometimes you're fielding field marketing now because the FMMs are not maybe in the field anymore. So you're having to help these franchise owners understand their just traditional P&L. You're having to help them with catering sales growth. You're having to help them with marketing opportunities. So there's a lot on you. I would encourage the catering industry and the technology companies to be able to have more resources for the individual franchise owner and general manager and not make the assumption that it's going to filter down effectively. We see it. We work with a lot of brands that have just onboarded a certain software and the restaurants just don't know how to use it effectively. And we're teaching them. And it's not really, we don't mind. It helps us to build a relationship and do a better job selling catering for them. However, I feel for them because they're just not, it's not making it all the way down there. And I know that's becoming more of an issue. And so if there's a hot company out there, and I know of a couple that help this process to teach restaurants, if there's no resources at the brand level, I would encourage, if you're a brand out there, to consider it, just because I think there's a big knowledge gap that once these general managers have the extra knowledge, they will flourish. I just think right now that's a big headache for some. So sorry for my tangent there. So kind of getting into this from a general manager, I mean, and a franchise owner level, again, your role is to execute, to help close when needed, wherever you can. If you don't have a catering sales manager, to lead daily briefings and team energy. I always had a huddle in the morning. I always had a mid-huddle, mid-afternoon. We always talked about catering when I was a general manager in the late 90s. Now that I'm aging myself too much here. But the idea behind it was we always talked about catering, so it was top of mind, so the team felt it was important. So even if you don't have a catering sales manager, share with them your numbers, share with them the orders, share with them how they're doing year over year. All of those things will help to motivate, hopefully, the team to help you kind of sell. So, and then optimize your staff, your budget, and your schedule to always be able to accommodate more. Without me getting into another tangent, you can manage sales up or you can manage sales down. And cutting labor, it's hard to cut labor and grow sales. It's just virtually impossible to do it long term. If you're cutting labor to cut back on it, it's going to cost you with sales. You can also waste labor by going too much. I'm not saying that, but what I mean is if your goal is to grow sales, you might want to look at other ways to cut than to cut labor first. It's just always sometimes the hardest part to be able to make that work. So we'll touch on May to get in here a little bit for you. There's information on how to help close a deal, how to generate strong communication, post-order follow-up, and customer success from a franchise owner level. So I just want you to know that's in there. And then we're going to get into June a little bit. Local market research, database cleanup, and budget planning. So your local market research, I wanted to touch on that just for a hot minute. Drive your trade area. If you have not, I always say go to work, come home from work a different way than you went each day. Take a different road, turn right, turn left, try something different. Because what you're going to start to see is businesses that you weren't aware of, and it'll start to help frame out for you some other catering opportunities. We can get into what a sales blitz looks like and how many hours a week you should. Sometimes simply driving a different path will open up your eyes to new catering opportunities. For years, I would drive into a market and I would have to be careful driving because I go, oh, and you want to write it down or you record it. Especially if, like with Honey Baked, we'd sell corporate gifting, hams and turkeys. I'd always look for these big metal buildings that had parking lots full of cars. That's what you want to be looking for when we talk about local market research. But it's also what new companies are coming into town, which ones have left, understanding what your hospital systems are. All of those things can be very huge in helping you to kind of plan as you get into June for the second half of the year. All right, we're going to push the last segment here, which is CSMs here. So obviously you are the fighter pilot in this scenario, right? You are the lock on, close it, follow up, repeat. This is where I'm a proponent of every restaurant should have a catering sales manager, if possible. If you can afford it, if there's enough sales to warrant it, have a catering sales manager. On the catering sales manager side, if you're not going to do this with your heart in it, you're don't waste the owner's money. If you're going to do this and invest in it and be a part of it. And I think when an owner is invested in wanting to grow sales and trusts the catering sales manager that's for them, and the catering sales manager has to earn that trust ultimately for at least for the short period. But when that synergy is there, when the owner or the general manager and the catering sales manager is strong, amazing things happen. I've seen it countless times. So I see. I'm going to ask Danielle and Bobby both. If you have an example of a GM, you don't have to say names, but a GM catering sales manager partnership that you've had in your past. What are some of the things that you saw when? In other words, how do you know you have that? What are some of the things that were happening on a daily or weekly basis that really kind of drove that home?
I can say one thing that was critical. Me as the marketer putting together the tools, and then the GM holding the team accountable was huge. Two of my brands, we created a scorecard. And I mean, literally at the end of every week, the GMs would get rated on, are the something as simple as, are the table tents out? Are you putting the bag stuffers in? Is all your POP out? And so I think it's almost like the GM and the marketing people are mom and dad, and they have to kind of manage the internal, but that was to me the most effective relationship versus having me as a marketer saying, okay, here's what your restaurant has to do in order to market, and the GM saying, oh, team, this is another thing you have to do. So it's the approach that they take. I think that makes it successful.
Yeah, I would agree, Danielle. I know that in my past, I've worked at brands where sales and ops just butt heads. And it's difficult to get anything done. And none of us can be successful if we aren't working together and communicating effectively and being empathetic towards the responsibilities and the expectations that the other one has. And so one of the things that I've always said that I preach at each brand that I work with is establishing trust and building a relationship between the operators and the sales teams, and making sure that they're speaking constantly and communicating effectively. And I've seen huge success when the two trust each other.
Yeah, trust is everything, and again, trust is mutual, which means as an owner or general manager, I would encourage you, I'd implore that you treat this person with a certain level of dignity and respect. And where I've seen it, where it starts to, is when you see harsh words or harsh language or harsh attitude toward each other, and it just kind of, it doesn't create the situation that you're looking for. I would say always manage. We always would say with the as the complimentary sandwich, say something positive on the front end. In the middle, you address your concern and you close with something positive. And that model is reinforcing their dignity, their pride, their ego a little bit, but being able to address. So I think there's ways to do it. I see where this fails sometimes is when it's not handled correctly. The purpose of that I wanted to touch on from the catering sales manager perspective, your job is to convert, to confirm, to follow up, and then to build those relationships. And so a lot of times when sales are down, we spend our time selling instead of relating. And sometimes the relating is going to be what drives your sales for you versus just the hardcore selling of trying to find something new. First calls are seldom going to evolve into an immediate order, but relationships that have been building over time will. And so not to say that you don't need to prospect. We always need to prospect, but prospect in your windows. Know where the prospecting windows are, and always prospect at the beginning of a listening window, right? So we say 6 to 8 weeks before an event-driven opportunity, I should be prospecting. When I get within 1 week of that opportunity, I'm not calling schools anymore the week out unless I'm following up or I'm confirming orders. I'm not prospecting then. And so it's understanding that I think is very important. The relate part of this plays a big role. General managers, owners that are out there, make time for that. They can't be prospecting 24/7. They have to have some time to nurture and build those relationships so you get that repeat business. Danielle touched on it a while ago. An existing client that you can nurture and develop is much more valuable to you than the prospecting of the new, because those are harder to achieve. They're harder to reach. And so please kind of keep some of that in mind. We're going to talk through May execution here for the catering sales manager level perspective. Your job in May is to close deals, to have strong communication, to post order follow up, and then customer success. So when you get into, we'll do post order, strong communication, pre order. Bobby, I'd love to know what your guys' model was there. What was the responsibility of communication for an existing order the day before or the day of delivery? When did we communicate with that client prior to delivery, and what did we ask on those calls? What was the purpose of those?
I love this because this is actually something that we have more of a focus on in over the past quarter, actually, at the brand that I worked with most recently. So our teams send an email as confirmation the day prior, the morning of the day prior to order fulfillment to say, hey, we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. And day of, we just implemented a new in-store delivery driver client communication script. So if the guest answers, this is what you call them, you let them know you're on your way, you confirm the delivery details, and so forth. If they don't answer, here's the message you leave. And so even though we've also recently implemented a delivery tracking system that's an automated delivery tracking for our guests and our clients, we find that phone call works wonders and helps cultivate a relationship with this guest without very much effort at all. So it's been we've already seen success for sure.
Danielle, any thoughts? I know you did some work with some of the software tech companies and delivery service providers where a lot of this is automated now, right? Where the message automatically goes out if you're using a cartwheel or something like that.
Right.
What anything that you want to share as far as communication and last minute?
No, but as we continue to move in this automated and AI phase, I still think it's critically important to have the human touch. The CEO that by himself texts and makes sure things okay. We can't just let the automation take over. So I would just keep a happy balance between the two. I think that goes a long way.
A couple things I want to share that I'm looking, I didn't put on here, so shame on me. But reiterating what they ordered. So these communications should be, hey, we're going to be there tomorrow. Here's what I have: 37 people, 17 of this, 20 of this. Here, you're added on this, and we have drinks, right? And so just a repeat summarization of what they ordered, and then our driver will be there tomorrow in this 10 or 15-minute window. If you have any questions, let me know. By the way, do you need to add anything else to this order? 10 to 15, 20% of the time, you'll add on something. We have 5 more people coming we weren't waiting for, or we decided, go ahead and add me 2 more of this. What you find is when people are spending money at the beginning, they have a budget. And then when you're calling them back, they're not worried about the 500 they've already committed to. Now they're just spending an extra 20 or an extra 30, and it doesn't feel as impactful. And sometimes when you call the day before, is there any add-ons or anything else I can add for you? Did you want to add a fruit tray to that? You will sometimes get yeses on the day before that you did not get at the beginning. So it's a great add-on option to increase your check average, but reiterating the order, inquiring about any additions they need to make, confirming the delivery time, and then explain to them what's going to happen. When we get there, our driver will take everything out. They'll set everything up. You'll see plates and napkins and condiments on one side. We'll have serving pieces and tongs, and we'll have whatever is you've ordered with a name tag card or whatever your model, your process is. But explain that to them a little bit. You may have already covered it, but a 1-paragraph explanation is not going to hurt anything. And then direct line or direct communication from them to you, whether it's a text, a phone number, an email, excuse me. If you know you're going to be sitting at your desk, the ability to have an email go to you, whatever it might be. But understanding the communication piece, this is probably one of the biggest things that people skip or they don't put as much time into. And this is one of the biggest things that determines repeat business, probably more so than even order accuracy. Because a lot of times because if you're going through all this, the odds of that order being accurate are much higher. So prioritize the communication, the reiteration of what has been ordered. And that's a day before, 24 hour, 48 hours, Friday before a Monday lunch, whatever that might be. For appreciation season, it says 5 to 7 days a bit. I agree. For something that's a little more planned in advance, that's a little further out, you can reach out a little further out as well and say, listen, we're a week away, seeing if there's any changes on your end. You still have the same numbers, you need to add any more, and then you can still do your 24-hour. But the ability to reach out to large opportunities in advance, I think, is very important. So it has on here internal team briefing. I think that's where Bobby was going earlier. Just every morning, ops meetings, whether it's once a week, once every day, depending on if you're at the restaurant level. But an internal meeting going through, okay, we have these 4 orders today. We have 7 total, but these 3 are going to be a little complicated. I want to make sure we don't forget A, B, C. We need ice for this. We need cups for this, whatever that might be. Being able to explain it to the team, assign those responsibilities to someone. And then the other thing on here that's not on here, but it's more of an operational thing, is a quality check process. I know we've got about 10 minutes left before we're done, but I wanted to touch on that real quick. We'll come back to it in a minute, but I want to understand, Bobby, what you guys did from a quality check perspective once an order before it headed out the door and what the responsibility was. But I wanted to cover strong communication on here because I think that's a big part of what your role is as a catering sales manager, to make sure everything's real clear. Post order, obviously, 24 to 48 hours, like we touched on. You're the one making the calls. And then customer success, where you talk about personalized thank you notes. I know that's a big one for Danielle. Summer planning conversations, just calling just because. CRM documentation, make sure your notes in your CRM are accurate. Please have quality notes. She said is not a good quality note. Joanne said is a quality note. Please be very specific. And then start trying to generate some referrals. One of the things that we'll touch on as we kind of wrap things up here, and I touched on it, Bobby, is quality check. How did you guys handle that from that perspective of, and whose responsibility was it? I guess operations, obviously, to some degree, but did the catering sales manager have a role in that, in the quality check? Oh, we lost Danielle.
The quality check prior to order fulfillment was solely operational, because 99 times out of 100, the salesperson is not on site, right? Is not at the restaurant. But we have a standard operating procedure that the person who is getting the order prepared, putting it together, and either handing it off to our internal delivery driver or handing it off to a third-party delivery driver, is temping all of the food, writing the temperatures down, making sure everything looks the way it should, is packaged the way it should be, and that same person is signing off on the pack slip. That pack slip is then kept on site for at least 1 full week after order fulfillment, to be sure that if for whatever reason we find that there were any issues or order inaccuracies, that we're able to hold that person accountable. They're signing off saying that, yes, this order looks good, everything's included, it's good to go. And so we've really found that just being able to have those systems in place, those checks and balances to hold people accountable, has been really great for our team.
So Danielle, you left as we were just talking through about quality check a little bit. One of the things that we would always try to execute is it was a 4 sets of eyes. We were 4 IQC or whatever you want to call it, where the person fulfilling and executing the order could not quality check it for obvious reasons, because you're knee deep into it a little bit. As a catering sales manager, depending on how much volume you have, if I'm a catering sales manager and I've got an important order going out, I'm definitely walking through to make sure that order is as accurate before it gets on the delivery vehicle. If I'm in-house, if I'm in the restaurant, if you're not, you're limited. And any thoughts or ideas on QCing and orders and how that works for?
Yeah. We had a rule that every order that left the restaurant had to have out an itemized printed receipt. Manager on the floor had to physically go through and check off each item on the receipt, and initial the receipt or sign the receipt. And then we had a separate checklist for, did you put utensils in, napkins, the bounce back flyer needs to be included. So anything that wouldn't have been on that itemized order, we had a separate checklist, and all those had to be checked and signed. And that seemed to really cut down on our incident rates a lot.
Now, I'm far removed from being in the restaurant for a long time. When we talk about like the Olos and the Toasts and the Monkeys of the world, and you create an order form that's a digital order form in the system. Do restaurants still print out paper forms to go with these orders, or do they print out a copy for execution, or is everything working on screens now?
I know at the time when I was doing it, we had both of the options, the screen and the printed. And so we required our general managers to print, check, and sign. Um, Most of them had printers in their restaurants, but I don't know
Yeah,
some of them
anymore.
today, the Olos of the world, etc.
Bobby, did y'all do printouts still at the restaurant level, or did it all done on screen?
So, in terms of the quality checks, everything's on printout so that we get a signature, so that we're able to hold that person accountable. But the nice thing about the nice thing about some of these catering softwares, I know we use Monkey. The nice thing about using Monkey is that you can set your system up to include the coupon that Danielle is talking about, or the setups, and really itemize everything on your pack slip. So when you're coming up with your standard operating procedures and saying, okay, the expectation is that you are required to print this pack slip, it will list every single thing that you need to send on this order. Again, that's just another automation feature that makes operators' lives easier and simplifies kind of everything and helps make us better.
I'm laughing because Taylor, who's one of our NCC gurus, responded going, "Print is still king." I was like, "It sure is." So
It
good.
is. It's old school, but
Thank
it
you, Taylor.
works.
But
It
Taylor,
works.
Taylor also, I think he listens to Melissa Etheridge, and so he had posted something in house the other day because he's a younger person that likes the old stuff, so it's fun. Just want to say thank you to everybody. Sometimes we get into these and we get into little tangents. Sometimes I feel like some of the best information is shared on a moment, on a whim. But the idea behind this was hopefully to understand how to approach May and June. I know it's in March. It's hard to look ahead. And as we continue to do these, we're going to be talking about December in just a few months. But the idea is that you're doing the right activities in the right month. And it's going to be hard this first year, but once you get into a routine, it really does start to smooth out and to realize, okay, it's January. Please don't stress me about January sales right now. I'm working on March, April, and May, because if you if you take January and you build your research and you do your list and you start warming things up in February and you start doing your outreach in March and you start selling heavily in April, then what starts to happen is as these events start coming up, Engineering Week was last month, right? You have these weeks that start coming up. Well, what happens is they compound. And so now as you get through the year, those engineering firms that you blew away on Engineering Week because you crushed it, they're going to start ordering for their repeat business all year long. And so what the value of the catering wave and the catering calendar working within it allows you to say, all right, I'm going to put all of these specific leads and I'm going to spread them out all year long. And where they bunch up, I'll have more to do, obviously. So when we say in January and February, you're not really selling much, but if you have Engineering Week in February, you're probably going to do a little selling, right? You're going to go through your little arc. And so the idea is that heavy sell the month or two before your heavy peaks, right? So then you can service heavily during the peak. So then when the peak is over, you can be customer success and retain those clients that Danielle was talking about are so much cheaper to keep than to try to get new ones. And then what happens is these sales start compounding as the year progresses. And so you're going, well, wow, man, our catering is up. But why is it up? It's because I don't have any events in October. It's because, well, that law firm that you reached out to in May is now ordering with you. The construction companies that you reached out to for May are ordering with you. And what happens is, and then you get into year two, you're revisiting these opportunities, you're revisiting these clients, and it's got just this natural process. It really is the Bee Gees singing "Row Row Your Boat." It can when all three are singing, the harmonies are amazing. So thank you for the opportunity to continue to do these with you. We appreciate you signing up. Please share with your friends. Please share with others. I was going to do a little bit about NCC. I ran out of time. But if you're looking for help growing some catering sales, we do fractional sales. We have a team of 68. They're U.S.-based folks. They are not call center folks. They're not gig workers or contract labor. They're our employees, and they do an amazing job. And we work real hard at making it happen for you. But we'll cover a little bit more next time because I want Danielle to be able to. It's been about 6-7 months. We want you to go through what you do at RevGen as well. So we'll talk
They
through
are
a little
good.
bit about that next month as well. But we try not to pimp ourselves on these. So hopefully everybody appreciates that. Thank you so much, Danielle. Anything before we go?
Nope. I just want to say I've utilized Byron services, saves the day. So I'm a full-fledged fan. So
Thank you.
kudos.
I appreciate it. Bobby, anything before you go? And again, would you like to come back and do these from time to time?
Yeah, I'd love to. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you for having me, Byron. And for anybody on the call, if you would like to connect, find me on LinkedIn. Byron has my contact information if you want to reach out to him. I'd love to connect with you and chat all things catering.
And when I sent the reminders out yesterday, I think Bobby's information is on there. If you just hit reply, you should be able to reach her as well. But yes, please connect on LinkedIn. And I'll tell you this real quick. If you're a franchise owner or you're a general manager or you're a catering sales manager or a brand leader, anybody that's on the call and you need help and you just want to chat, advice is free. I know Danielle and Bobby, I don't want to speak for you, but we're always willing to chat with anyone that wants to talk. So if you need some help or you want a little bit of advice or something like that, please feel free to reach out to us. We love talking shop. So please keep us in mind. So Arlene, yes, we will send out this deck and the link after. So look for the videos tomorrow, along with all the information. So thank you very much. And everybody have a wonderful appreciation season. We'll be in touch with you next month, right around this time. All right.
Thank you. Thank
All
you,
the best.
everyone. Thank you for
Bye,
having me,
y'all.
Byron.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.